Welcome everyone to MailFuzz TV. I am Peter and today I'm going to be talking about Squid Game Season 3 Episode 1. It's called Keys and Knives. So spoilers for the episode. And as much as we're calling it Season 3 Episode 1, and that's the official numbering, let's be honest, this is really Season 2 Episode 8. But that's okay, whatever. It doesn't matter, we're here now. It's nice to have the show back. It does though present me with the interesting challenge of remembering all the characters very well in terms of who they are and what their motivations and what they're doing, but having forgotten every single name. So bear with me. I did a quick rundown of them before I started. Although I'm realizing that I don't think I ever learned the mother and son's names. I think they were just always the mother and son. So I'm going to stick with that. Let's not make things too complicated. But yeah, obviously it was exciting coming back into this. Now we're getting the back half of the story. We got 6 episodes. There was like a little bit of a sadness about halfway through this episode when I realized that we weren't actually going to get to see a game. Like, we're going to set up the next game because we've been doing that a lot throughout Season 2. Season 3 seems to be quite similar. We're on Game 4 of, was it 6 or 7? However many there is total. So we're going to be doing that thing again where we're sort of setting up a game at the end of an episode and then, ending on the cliffhanger of it starting. That's how we end this. And the game in this case does seem quite vicious, but obviously the big thing into this is the fallout of all the various things that were happening at the end of last season. The fact that a bunch of people died trying to, do the coup. Gi-hun obviously is not dead. In fact, he's kind of like given back to the group in one of their present coffins. Where they go up and they're kind of like relieved to see that he's still alive. Well, some of them are anyway. Our main group are relieved to see that he's alive. Well, with the exception of one in particular. Daeho, the one who got scared and didn't go back with the ammunition last time, he clearly is kind of ashamed. And if anything, Gi-hun being alive is a little bit of a little worrying to him because he's going to know and he's going to maybe blame him for what's happened. And I think a lot of his own guilt is something that plays throughout this episode. In fact, the back half of this episode where Gi-hun is just staring at him, like, intensely. Like, the next morning when they wake up and he's just staring, and it's really making him uncomfortable. I really like that scene. I like that Gi-hun's kind of broken. He freaks out, basically, once he's back in the room with everyone else. They end up handcuffing him to the bed. So he doesn't even get to vote. When everyone's voting, he's handcuffed. So they just sort of say, "Oh, you're abstaining because you can't get up and vote because clearly you can't be trusted." And yeah, it makes sense that his will's been broken. He's been kind of this conduit of hope for everyone since the start of the games, and now he's disillusioned. The entire attempt to take over failed, and he feels like there's no hope anymore. He just starts begging to be killed, and yeah, it's quite heartbreaking. I think the performance from him is very good. I think that's the big thing that really stuck out here. And obviously the episode doesn't really focus on him for a lot of it. He is just kind of this constant thing in the background, pretty much, until the end. But, we do have the confrontation once they get the rules of the next game, where Daeho gets frustrated with his staring and starts to yell at him and grab him and blame him. It's like, hey, if we had just fought the other team, all the stays, all the blue circles, instead of going after the people in charge, we might have won and then won the vote and got out. So maybe it's your fault. But he's clearly projecting. He's clearly feeling super guilty, and Gi-hun is this personification to him of that guilt. He's this living reminder of what he did. And of course, we get into this next game where Gi-hun's on the side that's supposed to be targeting and killing the other side, and Daeso is on the receiving end. So you can totally get that Daeho is terrified that Gi-hun is just coming straight for him. And the end of the episode seems to imply that is exactly what he's going to do. He stands up and says it's your fault, and then starts walking with intent with the knife. Which means I should probably explain what the game is they set up at the end, just because if I'm going to reference it here or there. They're going to play hide and seek, where they're put into 2 random groups of even sizes. They have like a big pinball, gumball. That's the word I'm looking for. They have a big gumball machine, and they have red and blue spheres they're getting. I thought there was something inside the balls, honestly. I thought they were going to open the balls up and there'd be something in there. But this is just for deciding the teams, because obviously, as we see when they make the vote, the red and blue teams are a little bit uneven now, because it's a lot of the people on the red side who died in the coup attempt. So the numbers are very uneven, and the vote's not even a question at this point. We get the first person vote, and then we just cut away to another scene, because it does not matter. We know who's going to win, which I think is the wise choice. Even though it's been a little while since we had that first half of the story, I think it would probably feel repetitive now to get like the vote like play out again, like as long as it had been before. I think this was the right time to be like, no, it's obvious who's going to win, so let's just cut away to the other stuff with the front man and whatever else we're doing. But yeah, they're going to play hide and seek. They're going to go into like an arena where there's a bunch of locked doors. Now, all the blue vests are the hiders, and they all have keys that can open the doors in this arena. But once a door's been unlocked, it can't be relocked. And their goal is to either hide for the duration of the game, which I think they said was 30 minutes. If I'm misremembering that, whatever the time was, but I think it was 30 minutes. Or find the exit and escape. So there's a way they can get out of the game and be safe if they can find the exit. But presumably that's not going to be easy. The red vests are the seekers, and they are all given knives, and they're told that they have to kill the hiders. They have to kill at least one hider in the time limit, or they'll be eliminated, which I assume means they'll just get shot themselves by the guards. Obviously, directly making them murder each other is kind of a big deal. We've been kind of pushing more and more towards that, of course, throughout the games. That one where they were going into the doors and they were having to limit how many people were going in. I mean, they were literally fighting to get into those rooms, so they were effectively killing each other. And the front man certainly killed someone. But this is like straight up, no, the rules of this game are you have to kill one of them or you've not succeeded. Now, the way they phrase it, it does kind of sound like all you'd have to do is kill one, and then that's you're safe. You can just kind of chill for the rest of the 30 minutes. They do specifically say that the red vests aren't allowed to hurt each other. That's against the rules. So presumably, again, if that happened, you would assume that the soldiers would step in and do something there about that. The wrinkle they throw in here, though, is that they can swap teams before the game starts. They're given a little window of time where if they want to swap teams, they can't do it during the game, but before the game in this window they've been given, if they want to swap with someone else on the other side, if both parties agree to it, they can swap sides. So we have the mother and son swapping, because originally she was the one that was going to have to be the killer, and he's like, hey, you can't kill anyone, Mom. Like, I should be the one who's having to do that. And then once I do, I'll come and try and find you so I can protect you. You know, they're making that deal. Same kind of thing goes for Jung-jae and there's the guy in that relationship. Myung-gi? Is that his name? I'll remember that name. But yeah, okay. He's like, hey, let me be the stabber and I'll come and protect you afterwards. And she's like, I don't trust you. Why would I trust you? Obviously, their relationship's been very fractured. And he's like, no, I promise you, I will kill everyone in here if it means, you know, protecting you and getting out of here with you and the baby. And when she refuses, he basically offers, hey, come find me right away then. Come and kill me so that you've killed someone and you can get out. I'll let you do it. And she actually changes her mind at the very last second. It's when they're actually walking into the arena, she comes up and says, hey, keep your promise. So she makes the choice to switch to the blue side. I think what's interesting about this game is that we have main characters spread out over both sides of the team, which initially, before I knew what the game was, I was thinking, oh wait, does this mean we're going to lose like 2 or 3 characters of our main group, regardless of which side wins? But the way it's actually set up, it does seem like we could get out of this with people on both sides living. Now, do I think they're all going to make it? No, because we seem to lose at least one person of note every single game, so we're bound to lose someone. But it is interesting that, you know, once the blue vests go into the arena at the end, and it's this very low ceiling kind of room with all these stars on the walls, and there's an upper floor and things like that. So it's like quite a maze of doors and things like that, seemingly they're going to be traversing through. It is nice that we've got a little group of characters who are helping each other out. The old lady is helping out Jun-hee, and of course Hyun-ju's in there as well, who of course, you know, kind of stole a lot of the show last season, or the first half of the story, and they're going to kind of band together and try and help each other. So it will be interesting to see which characters end up helping some of the blue vests. Obviously, we can expect some of them, like, the son's going to obviously want to help his mother, assuming he even gets into a position where that's an option. Because he may not find them. That's the thing. It's like, they have to hide. And maybe they won't be found in time to be protected. Maybe someone worse will find them first. Like, these are problems. The asshole character, the one that was with Thanos, who's now doing the occasional impression of Thanos, and by that I mean bursting into like a little bit of English here and there with a bit of grandiose kind of I don't even know what you call it. But I'm going to call him Thanos too, because I have no idea what that character's name is. But he tries to make a deal with Myung-gi right at the end, because he's basically run out of allies. He tries to also talk to the Min-soo, the really timid guy who was too scared to help the girl on their team last episode. He doesn't really agree to anything. He doesn't agree to give up his knife and go over to the blue side. So there's some tension brewing there as well. You're kind of still waiting for Min-soo to finally sort of grow up here and kind of fight back against them. But it's definitely forming some interesting allegiances. There's definitely some interesting splits of characters in the two teams. The old guy who's been kind of vocally on the, I want the money, let's keep playing side the entire time, he's on the blue side and he keeps trying to trade with everyone. He even tries to trade with Gi-hun, and Gi-hun just stares him away. But he clearly doesn't want to be on the defensive side. He thinks it would be easy to kill someone. He thinks trying to survive for half an hour is what's scary to him. So I don't know if we'll necessarily lose him this round, just because it might be too early. Might want an antagonist for one more round. That said, though, if we still have Thanos too, then maybe we don't need both antagonist-style characters. But we also have the shaman lady, who is on the blue vest side. So if anything, we do have more characters on the blue vest side. But notably, we have Gi-hun on the red vest side. We have the sun on the red vest side. So we have at least a couple. And obviously the what's his face, Myung-gi. We have him on the red vest side as well. But anyway, I mean that's the game at the end, right? That there's obviously a lot of tension in those scenes where they're trying to swap sides or they're trying to form plans. And honestly, everyone who was arguing to someone to give up their knife and go to the blue side, I felt like, yeah, but surely maybe it isn't easy to be the killer. Maybe it's going to be tough because even though you've got a knife and the others don't, they're still going to try and fight back. And there's nothing said about how the blue team can't kill a member of the red team if they can. If they manage to wrestle the knife away or get them in a chokehold or something, there's nothing said that they can't or not allowed to do that. So there's a lot of potential here. There's a very diverse game seemingly, and there's a lot of people who could screw each other over. Very interesting set of rules for this next game, which I'm very curious to see how it plays out. As for the rest of the episode, though, I mean, obviously it's nice to see some of the core characters together again, discussing what happened. They're trying to make Gi-hun feel a little bit better, saying they wanted to come and help, but couldn't because the guards burst in at the last second. So it kind of recaps a little bit of what happened before. We get a little bit of a recap at the start. The big subplot of the episode, though, is very much No Yul, the guard who obviously we're following last season, who seemingly is playing ball with the whole we'll harvest organs, right? Because she was threatened to stop interfering with that. However, she specifically goes out of her way to save someone who technically should be dead. The father of the little girl who's playing the game. She basically says, hey, shut your eyes and play dead. Trust me and I'll keep you alive. Something to that effect. So she goes along with it, and they put him in a box with a little marker to indicate that he should be taken for organ harvesting. And she asked the main guy who's been doing this, hey, take me and let me see where they go. Take me to the workshop. Let me see everything. And he basically kind of just falls for this, because honestly, it should be quite suspicious that she's asking to see anything when she's only just turned to their side of thinking, seemingly. It feels suspicious, and I would be mistrusting of her if I was in his shoes. But it seems like he's just thinking with his dick. He seems to think he's going to get laid, because when he's taking her down the stairs to see the workshop, he's like, hey, I know a quiet spot near here. We can have a proper date. He seems to think that because she's like in line, so to speak, that she's going to be in line for everything he wants. Like he's in charge now. Of course, she's got an ulterior motive. When she gets to the workshop where they're about to cut open the guy and start harvesting some organs, she, grabs her gun and she shoots like two of the other guys, shoots the main guy she was talking to, takes care of everything except the guy who was going to cut the body open, and she insists that he save him, and that's kind of where the subplot goes here, is that he patches him up and then says that he needs blood, and she's got type O blood, so she's like, hey, take mine. So that's kind of the subplot for the episode, is her going out of her way to save this guy. So she's doing something very noble, right? Saving the father of this little girl, which was the whole crux of her introduction back at the start of season 2. But it's interesting just the idea that we have a player who's supposed to be dead that isn't now. Because, that's just kind of interesting. There's a player who survived and is hiding now beneath the lower depths of this secret base. Like, he's down there now. And what's the plan now? Like, is her plot going to be about trying to get him out alive now for the rest of the season without anyone knowing? I mean, presumably one of the things she could do is hand him one of the guard suits of the other ones that she killed, and he can pretend to be one of them for a bit. That might be like a direction they go in. But I don't know. I thought this was an interesting plot because it was kind of like paying off some of the stuff that we're setting up with her. Newell was such an interesting character in those first 2 or 3 episodes when they were really like, revealing who she was and that she was part of this game and that she was, like this conflicted character who was on the darker side of the line. But obviously we've got this plot here which has got some redeeming qualities to it, and I'm excited to see where this goes. The plot that I'm less excited for, and has been kind of the dud since pretty much we got to the island in season 2 and now season 3, is everything on the boat. Every time we leave the island to go to the boat, and we're dealing with the aftermath of the captain turning out to be a bad guy, to the audience, the characters don't know that, but we do. I mean, all of this, it just kind of feels like they wanted something for Jung-jae because he was such a prominent character in the first season. They wanted something meaningful for him to do that we'd keep cutting back to. But to be honest, the only time this boat stuff is probably going to get interesting is when they somehow make it to the island near the end of the show. Everything until then just kind of feels like we're killing time. It just feels like, well, we're just killing time with this plot of like they don't know who to trust. There's someone on the boat, and that's the the likable guy from the gang kind of tries to tell Jung-jae that he's suspicious of the captain. Jung-jae waves it away, thinks he's been drinking too much, but he decides to not go on the boat so he can go and investigate, and that's kind of where we leave him off. But yeah, everything with the boat just it was definitely the weakest part of season 2. And based on this episode, I don't really feel that differently about season 3. It's just ultimately, I just don't think much of what's happening on the boat really matters that much. All that's going to really matter is when they are able to intersect with everything else. And everything plot-wise that's happening to them, where they get a false positive, where because that one episode last season where they thought they found an entrance on an island and it was just it was rigged to explode. It was just like, okay, like, this didn't really add anything to the overall story. It's just a bunch of like stalling tactics and obstacles before they get to the island. Honestly, it would probably be more exciting to just see Jung-jae and a little team show up via a boat at the right moment, when the time comes, as opposed to like following their story throughout, which has just been kind of like unfulfilling. It's easily the weakest part of everything that's going on. But I do think No Yule's subplot is pretty good. She's an interesting character because she's on the other side of the line, and I do really like how broken Gi-hun seems. Like we're at that point at the end of like Act 2 of a movie where the hero's at their lowest, where they've lost hope, where they're disillusioned, and they have to find their fire again. And the funny thing is that as much as like it's easy to find Daeho unlikable in this episode because he gets kind of, he's clearly guilty the whole time. And then when he yells at Gi-hun and tries to say it's his fault, you do definitely, he's not particularly likable in that moment, I'll say. But there is like still, I think, some sympathy for him because ultimately, like, yeah, he got scared when there was guns being fired and he talked a big game. So yeah, maybe he was a bit overly like arrogant and proud, than he turned out to actually be. But like, it's still very human. It doesn't make him evil. It doesn't make him a monster. There's definitely worse people in this show than him. But right now, you can also sympathize with Gi-hun's laser focus on him, right? And it's what makes it kind of tragic is that as much as he's a little bit unlikable this episode, Daeho ultimately just got scared, and we can kind of all like relate to that. We can all kind of sympathize with it, and if Gi-hun does kill him, if we do go through with that next episode, it will be kind of a dark moment for Gi-hun because he doesn't really deserve to be killed. Not really, right? Maybe he deserves it a little bit more because he tried to shift the blame to Gi-hun, but I feel like that's just him trying to cope. We're seeing flawed characters try to deal with what they're going through, and they're at their worst moments right now. At least those two certainly are. So no, that's exciting to see, and I'm curious to get to that stuff as we get through more episodes. So honestly, it was interesting just kind of getting into the swing of this again, and like getting used to all the characters and whatnot. If I did butcher or misremember any character names, please do give me some patience. Right, give me some patience. But no, it wasn't a bad episode though by any means, and it definitely set up an interesting game for next time. But it's definitely in that kind of weird format right now. Whereas season 1 had a very different format where it would set up a game, play the game, and then we get a little bit of aftermath in an episode for most of them. Whereas season 2 and now seemingly season 3 have been doing this thing where we get the aftermath, we build up, and then we set up the next game, but we don't actually get to see that game until the following episode. And maybe for this episode in particular, it's particularly rough because we didn't like just end a game last time. Like, yeah, we had the shootout and stuff, but we didn't have quite the same type of fallout as we normally do, even though arguably it was more interesting in some ways. So I don't know. Obviously there's some dark elements here, like them hanging up the bodies up in the stair area where everyone can see them, and again that's just adding more into the guilt of Daeho and the anger of Gi-hun. So yeah, excited to see that stuff. As far as the frontman's concerned, not much to really say other than the VIPs arrive at one point, and he was watching as well when Gi-hun was losing his shit, so that's also worth mentioning. So we might see the rich people who are here to watch the games next episode like we did in season 1. But hey, that is my thoughts on the season 3 premiere of Squid Game 3. I will see you guys next time, later in the week hopefully, for episode 2, and we'll take it from there. But yeah, you can support all the content over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can become a YouTube member or even do a one-time super thanks. Any support is greatly appreciated. Check out MailFuzz Movies, where all the movie podcasts live. There's a bunch of bonus content for a lot of that over on Patreon. But thank you once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?